Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching or listening to the podcast Tell Me Your Story. Today's guest is Daniel Jackson. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
It's my honor, my privilege to have you on, man. Let's just jump right into this. Let's
Why don't you
start from
say
the
that
very
now?
beginning.
'Cause,
Let's just jump right into this, man.
Sure.
Let's start from the very beginning. Where does it all start for you? Where were you born?
I was born in New Jersey. I lived in a town called National Park, but I was born in another town called Woodbury. Um, and I lived there until I was 17 years old. And then my parents and I moved from there down to Delaware, Lower Delaware. They call it Lower Delaware because they call it Lower, Slower Delaware because they take their time doing things down there. So, but yeah, and I lived there. I lived there from up until I was 35. I moved away for 5 years because I got married, came back. You see how that worked. Um, and then lived there. Met my now wife and lived there until I was 55. And now I live out here in Arizona, southern Arizona. I'm about 12 miles north of the Mexican border. I live maybe 20 minutes away from Tombstone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for the younger generation, was there technology? Was there phones? What was going on in your childhood?
No. In my childhood, there was no technology. When I was a kid, we were the first kids in the neighborhood to actually have a video game, an Atari video game. So you played Pong. Ball just going bang, bang, bang.
Going back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And then you had the race car thing too. You had a steering wheel and you just played race car, and it was just a little box that went across the screen. That was it. I mean, there was nothing to it. So yeah, no phones. You had one phone in the house that was on the wall. That was a dial phone, and that was it. No, nothing else other than we had a stereo system in the house, and we had one TV in the house downstairs, and my mom and dad went upstairs in their bedroom. No real other technology or anything like that. By the time I was 14, I was playing drums. So I had a drum set in my room, but I eventually moved it out to the garage because it was very loud in the house. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. This was when I was growing up. It was in the 1970s.
So that was during the rock stage. That's when rock was fully alive too.
Yeah, man. That's when all the good bands were out. They weren't using auto tune or anything like that. No, you actually had to have talent and you had to be able to sing and play. So yeah, that in the 70s and then the 80s. So yeah, and I played in an 80s rock band when I was young. I had big hair. I wore zebra stripe spandex. I thought it was cool. I thought I looked cool. Maybe not so much by now, but yeah, but that's when all the '80s bands were out. Dokken and Kiss and Night Ranger and all that stuff. Yeah, that's what stuff I was into. Motley Crue, all that stuff.
Did you get the chance to experience them live?
Yes, I went to a lot of concerts. I went to this is horrible to say, but I went to see Def Leppard back when the drummer had two arms. They opened up for Billy Squire. I saw Van Halen on the Diver Down tour. I saw Quiet Riot open up for Black Sabbath on Quiet Riot's first tour. That's how old I am. I saw later. I saw David Bowie, and he had Peter Frampton playing guitar for him. That's how old I am. Um, I saw Sammy Hagar when he was still Sammy Hagar, and another band opened up for him called Crocus in the '80s. I saw Iron Maiden with Twisted Sister. I saw Twisted Sister with Dokken. Yeah, I saw a bunch of bands. It was that time, when you could go to a concert, and my buddies would get tickets, and tickets were like $7 or $8. So you couldn't beat it. But again, you think, oh, $7 or $8, wow, that's great. But back then, I mean, when I first went to get my first job at 16 years old, I was making $2.49 an hour. So I mean, times have changed, But yeah,
and,
yeah, they really have.
but yeah, people think like, wow, $2, that's it? That's all you was making? And
Yeah,
like nowadays, you would say that'd be like what? That's like $20 compared to
yeah,
back then.
yeah, yeah, and especially with I mean, right now, what the price of gas is like over $5 right now. I mean, I don't who knows if it's going to stay there, but yeah,
Let's hope not. Let's hope it goes
yeah, because when
down.
I first started driving I didn't have a car. I bought a van. I had a van. I bought the van basically to haul my drums around. When I was getting gas, it was around 87 to 89 cents a gallon. So yeah,
I was thinking back, like during that little when we were in COVID. That's when I seen it get to its lowest. I think the lowest I got it for was like probably about 130, 125.
oh yeah, we had gas over where I lived at that time in Delaware. It was like maybe like around $2. So, and I thought that was great, but
Yeah, I was like, keep it there, man. Let's keep the gas at that
yeah,
price.
it is not that way now. Yeah, I mean, we have a gas station over here because in southern Arizona, and I'm sure it's all around, a place called Circle K. And they have a thing where they just, once every like 6 weeks, they let, if you're a member over there, wow! You got a freight train over there?
Yeah, did you hear it? It's coming through town. Those
Holy
gas
crap!
prices.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Our Circle K, well, they put this out for members like every 6 weeks, and they have gas over there for 40 cents off a gallon. So, but that still doesn't make up for it being over $5 a gallon. So yeah.
Yeah. So, being in a band, though, did you get to open for anybody?
I did one. Well, I was always playing in bars. I played in bars from the time I was 17 until the time I was 33, 34 years old. Um, I never really opened up for any, I wouldn't call them big, but we did a festival one time. Again, this was in the 90s, and this festival was a local festival around town, and they had it once a year. And this festival, they had all these different bands that would come through. I saw Kansas there. I saw this guy Pat Travers there. Uh, I saw a bunch of different bands there. And then one year we got to play, and when we played on the big stage. We played in front of Molly Hatchet. So, but we played to 5,000 people. So it was pretty cool.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Now, was that your biggest crowd, or did you have a bigger crowd than that?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest crowd. Everything else was just bars. We would play bars, but yeah, I mean, I was always in a good band. Always had a good band going. It was always a band that me and my friend Bill, the bass player, would start. But we always had a good group of guys playing. And one of the last bands we played in is we called ourselves Stranger because we were stranger than everybody else. Uh, uh, we always packed the house every time we played at a bar, so never had a problem with that. They would they
Just thinking
would they
about
would actually wait outside in line trying to get in because
and I'm thinking,
the place was.
I was thinking to myself, my buddy Aaron was talking about it the other day, how Metallica had like, I think it was like 2.2 million people in Russia
Yeah, it's a
performing.
bit.
Like they were having a lot. I'm like, how could you fit that many people in somewhere? Like,
Yeah,
was they using
it's
somebody's farm?
big outdoor thing or something like that. I mean, yeah. I mean, and how much is how far is that PA system really going to reach out to everybody else? You're probably not hearing it. You're just there for the atmosphere.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, 2 million people at a
Yeah,
concert. My
yeah,
goodness, that's half. That And that was in Russia too, so that was like
Yeah. Well, I lived in Delaware, and by the time I left, there was only 996,000 people who lived in the entire state. So that's a lot of people.
what happens out in Delaware? Anything good? You got anything good out there?
Nothing really. It's got a beach. It's got a beach called Rehoboth Beach. There's another place called Lewis, although it's spelled Lewes. People call it, oh, I'm going to Lewis Beach. No, it's Lewis. So, yeah, the beach there, Rehoboth Beach. It's a nice beach. Um, Very family oriented. Um, but it just when I first moved there, I was again 17 and you could go down to the beach and you could actually get a parking space. Um, you would pay for the machine and you'd put a quarter in and you would get 20 minutes for a quarter. Now, if you put a quarter in, you get 5 minutes. So
Depending on where you go. Depending on
yeah,
where you
yeah, and they
go.
don't even have quarter machines anymore. Now you put your debit card in, and it was just and then by the time we left, it was a very crowded beach. There was another beach that went down. You went a little further down, you went into Maryland, and it was a place called Ocean City. And once a year, or in September, they had a bike week. And I ride motorcycles now. I gave up the music for motorcycles, um, and so I've been to the bike week probably around 18 times over there. But
Yeah.
it's just it's fun just to be around all the motorcycles and the loud roaring sound. It was loud there the whole entire time. Um, but it's just one of those. A bike show is for all these gazillions of vendors just trying to sell you all their garbage bike stuff that you really don't need, and sunglasses and all this other crap. So, but it's just the atmosphere that really people go down for, and that's what I did. So, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah. And the nice part about Bike Week is because we actually get here in Ohio, in Sandusky, they come through it like I think in June, and they always have like somebody performing. But yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, it's an experience. You get to see
Oh yeah.
like all the '80s bands pretty much. I think the
Yes.
last year we had Poison. Poison came through.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've seen Poison before. I saw them on a tour as well. In I think it was 2001 or maybe 2000, something like that. And I saw them with it was Poison, Cinderella, Slaughter, and Dokken. So that was a big one. But yeah, they did the same thing down in Ocean City. The last bands I saw there was Kix and George Lynch's version of Lynch Mob at that time. So, but it was pretty cool.
Do you
Yeah.
guys also get Jackal out there too?
No, we have never had Jacko out there. I mean, they may have now since I've been gone for 4 years, but yeah, I've never gotten to see Jacko. I was never a
Does it
big
seem?
Jacko fan. I mean, they had two songs, but other than that,
Yeah, the Lumberjack song.
yeah,
They,
the Lumberjack.
they
I
love
love
to
it,
play that song.
yeah. That's it's kind of comical to me. I don't know. They were just kind of comical to me, you know.
Yeah, they come here every year. I mean, I thought for the longest time they were sponsoring it because you just see them every year.
Really?
Jackal.
Yeah.
Yep, Jackal is performing sometime
Yeah, well, when you're
somewhere.
trying to make a living, man, you got to do something, you know. I mean, those guys are what
Yeah.
now? 80, something like that.
Yeah, they're up there, man.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how they do it. You know, I'm a 59. I don't want to get up around and do what they do. That's for sure. But
No. The first show I actually seen was Eddie Money.
wow, wow. I
Yeah,
never got
Eddie
to see
Money.
him. I liked him.
He came around doing the 2 Tickets to Paradise, and it
Yeah.
was cool because it was like towards the end of his career, like before he passed away,
Oh,
where
yeah.
he had his family in it now. He had his
Oh.
daughter performing with him, his son performing with him.
Wow.
I think he was trying to kick off their careers, trying to get them going
Yeah.
in a new direction, and not
Yeah,
living in
maybe
his
just-
shadow.
Maybe it was just cheaper that way.
Like here you go, let's get him going.
Yeah.
So, back to your story though.
Sure.
We get talking about Bike Week. So, you're 17, you're in high school. What is the experience like there?
Um, in Delaware, it was different. It was a complete culture shock for me. I'll have to say it in the best way possible. I'm not a racist person whatsoever. I look at people as they're just people. It depends on how people treat you and how they act. That's all. Um, I went to school when I lived in my town in New Jersey. It was called National Park. There was one family and one black kid in town. That's it. And we all knew him. And we were friends with him. A great guy. His name was Danny Knight. And then there was when I went to high school, one black kid. When I moved down to Delaware, half the school was. And I was like, it was just different. But it wasn't a big deal. I met some friends really early on. I had big, long, poofy hair again, because I played drums. It was just a different experience because I really didn't know a lot of people. I got there. I was a new kid. I was the new kid when I got there. I was in 12th grade, so I really didn't know a lot of people, or so I thought. And not until later on in life, I actually went to a high school reunion for down there. As soon as I walked in the room, I'm like, "Hey, Dan!" I'm like, "Who the heck are these people?" I mean, I didn't know I was that popular, but yeah, it was just a big culture shock for me. It was just a 17 years old, come to a new state, don't really know anybody, have to learn the lay of the land, have to figure out where I am because I knew everywhere to go in New Jersey, even though I had only just started driving by the time I was almost 17 there. But yeah, it was just a huge culture shock. Again, playing drums back there. There was a big scene. I looked older than I was, so I had a friend who I'd go back and visit all the time, and him and I would go to a club over there. And you were supposed to be 21. I was like 18 years old, and I was able to get into this bar, and I'd go up there every so often. And when I was going up there, I would see my drum teacher there, and he played in a famous rock band, but wasn't famous at the time, called Cinderella.
Wow.
So he played with them, and I would go up and see him and talk to him all the time. And then I was also there, but I was also going back to visit there quite often. And I'd take my buddy from Delaware, the bass player Bill, and we walked into that bar one time, and we were standing there, and this was a couple of years later, and we were standing there, and Tom Kiefer walks in. And everybody's like, "Oh my God!" I turned to my buddy, I said, "Hey man, look who it is." And he's like, "Holy crap! I mean, I can't believe that's Tom Kiefer." And I was like, "Yeah, that was." I used to see him when he played on the stage, and they used to they had no money, and for costumes they had these wristbands on, and they were like white with stripes in the middle of them, and what they actually were that they were tube socks. You'd cut the top off and they'd put them on there and use them as part of their costume. But yeah, then I saw them there. And that night we were there to see, we saw another band that was called Heaven's Edge. They came out with one album later on. And that was their debut there. And as their debut there, we were sitting at the bar, and the guy who was sitting next to us was this guy named Billy Childs, who plays for another band called Brittany Fox.
Wow.
The night before that, we had gotten invited to go over a place called Hammerjacks, but we didn't know how to get there because we saw a band the night before at this little tiny club in Dover, Delaware. There was 12 people in the place, and there was this band, there was up and coming band that was just coming out, and they were called Warrant. It was Warrant.
Really?
Yeah, they played this club. There was 12 people in the bar. They actually did a photo shoot there, I guess, later in the evening for Shure microphones, and they did it at this bar. And there was nobody there, so we hung out with those guys. What you would call backstage, this little back room, and just talking to those guys and met those guys. They were really nice, and they're like, "You should come and see us. We're going to be tomorrow night at this place called Hammerjacks," but we couldn't figure out where the heck it was because again, no telephones back then. You didn't have any GPS or anything like that. So instead, we couldn't find that. So we went over to this bar called the Galaxy over in New Jersey, and we saw Tom Kiefer and this band Heaven's Edge, and then Billy Childs sitting next to us. He's like, "Hey man, how's it going?" So it was just a strange evening, but but yeah, that whole time period for me was just, it was hard to get used to because I had so many friends back in New Jersey. And then when I moved to Delaware, I didn't really know anybody, but I just hooked up with all the guys who were musicians. And my buddy Bill was basically the only musician that I met that was any good. Everyone else was kind of just, I don't know. I was used to a standard of musicality, and I just, when I got to Delaware, it was just horrible. But it was like
Yeah,
there was a bunch of farm boys. That's all it was.
yeah, at least you're being honest though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, but I eventually met other people, and I played in some really good bands. But I really had to search for that. So
Warrant only had 12 people at that
yes,
performance.
they had 12. They had a bus that showed up. We were talking. My one friend Brian was hanging out with a guitar player named Joey Allen. Um, that's not his real name. His last name is Cheggles. He said he was telling my buddy. He says my name is Cheggles. You know, like bagels, but he says it's Cheggles. But I have to change my name because it doesn't Cheggles doesn't look cool on an album. So
No.
yeah, but yeah. So yeah, we hung out with them. But yeah, there was only 12 people in the place. I mean,
So
I
that should
saw.
tell, like, I'm thinking to myself as you're saying that, that should tell somebody like right now who's watching or listening that it all starts from like you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, well, there were people there who were playing. What's up? There was a these bands. This one bar would have big bands that came through. They came through. There's that one. I forget the name of the band. It was an all-girl band, heavy metal band. Uh, the drummer's name was Roxy something, but I was living on the edge of a broken heart. They were there. I mean, again, there was maybe 50 people in the place because the place wasn't a big place. Um, what's the girl that sang "Voices Carry"? She played there. Um, the guys that were in that one movie with Eddie Murphy, the Bus Boys, they played there. It was kind of strange. And then there was another bar in town, right up the road, that also had big acts in there. I saw Mr. Big in there. I saw Blue Oyster Cult. I saw Foghat. I saw this guy Pat Travers, Boom Boom Echoes the Lights, like 4 or 5 times over there. I saw a different incarnation of Rat play there. It was Rat without Stephen Pearcy. I saw Skid Row there without Sebastian Bach when they had their second singer. So they had a ton of bands that played there as well. And because I was in a local rock band there and I played at that bar, they would let me stay backstage. And when everyone would leave, and me and my buddies would hang out with all these rock stars. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
So this place though, it just like it didn't like people didn't know about it or what was going on there.
This is when a lot of these other bands were like on their way down. They were not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were not doing very well at that point. I mean, when I saw Blue Oyster Cult there. Geez, it was in the late '90s. So they were no really longer popular anymore. As well as Skid Row, they had a different singer now. This guy named Johnny Solinger, and he was really good, but they weren't, that popular anymore. Mr. Big was on their way out. They were all again Rat without Stephen Pearcy. They had another guy named Jizzy Pearl who was singing, and then they had another guy who was up on stage playing guitar with Warren DeMartini, and this guy was famous at one time too. He played with a band called Motley Crue. He played. It was John Corabi, the guy who sang with Motley Crue for like one album. So he was up on stage. He was just making a living. That's all he was doing was playing guitar in Rat, in this version of Rat, making a living. So, but yeah, it was just it was Warren DeMartini and the drummer Bobby Blotzer, and then a couple other guys. That's all. But yeah, this is when they were all heading like they're doing now. All these bands are out on the road. They're not the same members. I mean, geez, Foreigner's out on the road right now, and there's not a single original member of the band right now. So they're ripping people off, which is kind of, I don't, Leonard Skinner plays. There's not a single original member of Leonard Skinner. It hasn't been in for 2 years. So So yeah, but these places would just get these bands. I saw Quiet Riot there twice, but the original, I mean, besides Range Road, the original Quiet Riot, I saw them twice there, and then another place down in the beach in Lewis Beach. But yeah, this is when they're on the back end of their career. They were just trying to make collect a paycheck, but they were good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my life. Yeah, just going. Just I again played music. That's all I did. I lived, breathed, eat, music the entire time.
Music
That's
man, the
all I
music
did. Yeah,
man.
yeah. And then after the music was over, I couldn't function anymore. I was a diabetic. I had some diabetic issues that caused me. I can't play anymore right now. I mean, I'm losing muscle mass in my hands, so I can't even hold drumsticks anymore. So after music was over, then that's when I had always wanted a motorcycle, and I got a motorcycle. Now I have two motorcycles, and but I mean throughout the years I've had like 10 of them. So and my life is basically I love doing motorcycles, but that's not what my life is all about now. So
Well, let's get into that. Now that
yeah.
the music career is like fizzled out and you couldn't do it no more. What was the next phase of your life?
The next phase of my life was I sold my drum set. I had two drum sets. I had met someone who I'd gotten married to. I sold my drum sets. I had two drum sets, 8 snare drums, 22 cymbals. I had all this extra equipment. Sold it all. Bought my first motorcycle. My brother taught me how to ride. I bought a motorcycle. Went out on my maiden voyage. I left the driveway. I the houses were real close together, and there was grass there, and I hit the grass, and the people had just watered their lawn. As soon as I hit the grass, the bike slid right out from under me, and I slammed right into their house. So now I have a big scar on my leg that looks like the Nike symbol. I just did it all right, that's for sure.
You just did it, man.
Yeah. But I continued. I'd gotten my license, so I was just waiting around for my leg to heal up, and then when it healed up, and then I went and did that. And then I was just immersed in that. I wanted to ride my bike all the time. I rode that bike for about a year. My wife at the time was riding with me one day, and we were going down the road, and the wind came across the road and blew us across the road because it wasn't a very big bike, little Suzuki 800, and we stopped, and she's like, "Can we just go home?" I was like, "Yeah," and we got home. She's like, "I want to go riding with you, but I can't ride on that bike. It's too small." She said, "You need to get a bigger bike," and I said, "I love you." We went to I looked around. I bought another motorcycle. I traded that one in, bought another motorcycle, big Honda VTX 1300. I had that one for 5 years. I drove 58,000 miles on it in 5 years. I went everywhere with that motorcycle, and it was more. I started meeting more motorcycle people, and then there was a motorcycle shop that was maybe a couple miles from the house, and I was hanging out there every Saturday and hanging out there, and ended up going to that shop for a total of 17 years before it actually closed. But when it closed, it was that was a year before I actually packed up and moved to Arizona. But I had been everywhere on motorcycles. I had taken that motorcycle. I had been from Delaware. My buddy and I rode from there all the way over to Tennessee in 12 hours. We did a road over there called the Tail of the Dragon. It's 11 miles long with 318 turns in it. You can't go over 35 miles an hour because if you do, you're going off the side of the road. There's no guardrails, and you're on a mountain. And there's so many. You get to the end, and there's a place where you buy T-shirts and a little hotel. And there's a tree there with no leaves on it, and it's all these motorcycle parts hanging off of it. They call it the Tree of Shame from all with accidents and stuff like that. But beautiful country over there. But and that was my life again. It was just I was all immersed in motorcycles. It was all about that. And, I eventually moved away from Maryland because the marriage wasn't going so great, and I joined a riding club and got immersed in that. Met a bunch of people there. I always had this one friend though that I had met in for being in Maryland. This guy named Paul. He's still my friend. I haven't seen him in person in 4 years because I live in Arizona now. But we talk regularly, and him and I rode everywhere together. We just rode everywhere together. Him and I were always, hey, what do you want to do this week? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to, always riding somewhere. Um, I was when I moved away from Maryland, I worked at a job, and then I had a really bad work accident there, and I went to work on my motorcycle, and I left in an ambulance that day. I had was working at a place in a freezer place, and I was working at this machine doing someone else's job because I had to leave early that day. And a guy came up behind me and picked up 2 pallets of frozen chicken, and then they started to fall apart. And he dropped them, and when they did, they collapsed and fell on top of me. Um, so I ended up having, from that, I had 2 back surgeries and a hernia surgery. And my last back surgery, I have 4 screws in my lower back and titanium screws. And I had to go to physical therapy for 4 years, basically kind of relearning how to walk properly again because I was so messed up. I walked with a cane for 2 years. And that was an ordeal. I was out of work for 4 years. I was had to go to court for that twice. We won, but you don't get much. You don't get much from being on disability and all that stuff. But luckily, I mean, my friend Paul, I was telling him, I was like, I don't know if I can keep the bike. And he said, don't sell the bike, man. If you sell the bike, you'll never get another one again. And he was right. And so I kept the bike, and then so yeah, he was my best friend and still is. And we went to those bike weeks all the time. We went to a parade up in DC a bunch of times called Rolling Thunder. It was for in memorial for POWs and MIAs, and just it was just doing that all the time. I was always riding motorcycles, and I eventually sold that bike, got a sport bike, did that for 6 months, and then I developed something called frozen shoulder because of my diabetes. So I couldn't raise my arm up any higher than that. It wouldn't go up all the way up like it does now, barely. And so I had to have that manipulated during one of my back surgeries. But it was always, even after the back surgery, my first words that come out of the doctor's mouth were, when can I get back on my motorcycle? I mean, that's all I cared about, that's all I wanted to do. And I still enjoy it today, so I got rid of that sport bike, bought a Kawasaki, a big 1600. And then I got rid of that. And then I got a Harley, a little Sportster. That was a cool bike. And then I moved on from that to a Super Glide. And then I moved on to the Super Glide. When I met my wife now, and I sold it and bought something called a Fat Boy. I still have it. I was riding it yesterday. And then I got another bike called a Lowrider and had that for about a year and sold that. Got something called a Can-Am. I had those 2 wheels in front, one in the back. I had that for about a year and a half. Sold it because it wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. And then I got something else called a Street Glide, and I have that as well. I still have that as well. But that's not, again, I still enjoy doing the motorcycles. There was even one point when I was in with that one of those bikes, I was in a not so nice motorcycle club. Not that it was an MC club. I was in there for 4 years. I was always riding with people beyond my friend Paul. All these other people I riding with all the time. All they wanted to do was go out to bars and drink all the time. And then I was always helping them pick their bikes up because they couldn't freaking ride, and I wasn't a drinker. So I got up with these guys who were called the Phoenix MC, and they were all about sobriety. And it was but it was still a bunch of politics and stuff. So I just didn't fit in with them. I knew I didn't. And there got to a point where I said, okay, I got to get out of here because there was something else that was taking place in my life that I just knew I could not be in this environment because I'd always come home angry from the meetings and all that stuff. and my life had taken a really huge change. There was something that was taking place throughout my entire life that I didn't make it very public to people.